If it is up to the competent Advocate General at the European Court of Justice, the ECJ, Britons will not be able to retain the advantages of EU citizenship after Brexit. The loss of these rights is one of the consequences of the exit decision, argued Advocate General Anthony Collins in his opinion presented in Luxembourg. It was about the complaint of a British woman who lives in France and is no longer allowed to vote in local elections there. The woman has lived in France since 1984 but still has British citizenship. In the Brexit transition phase, she was removed from the electoral register of her place of residence. On the other hand, she went to court in France. She argues that she no longer has the right to vote anywhere. Under British law, she is no longer allowed to vote in Great Britain because she moved away more than 15 years ago. Citizens of other member states are allowed to vote in local elections in EU countries as if they have their main residence there. Since Brexit, however, that no longer applies to Britons, said Collins. The right to vote is not one of the rights granted to them for the transitional period and after. The fact that women in Great Britain are no longer allowed to vote is a question between them and their home country, not a question for the EU, or this woman, not the women. The opinion is a legal opinion that the judges of the ECJ do not have to follow when making their decision, but they are often guided by it. A date for the pronouncement of the verdict is not yet known, but you can be quite sure that they follow it in this case, because Brexit means Brexit. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has called Russia's attack on Ukraine barbaric. Putin's troops would attack completely innocent people. He described the Russian president as a dictator. After the large-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russian troops, British Prime Minister Johnson has now also publicly commented on the situation in Eastern Europe. Johnson described, as I said, Russia's attack as barbaric, and he also called President Putin a dictator. Well, which he is, in fact. He also stressed that he had pledged UK support to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in a phone call. Unfortunately, all fears have now come true. Putin has attacked a country without any prior provocation and is waging a war against completely innocent people, Johnson said. The British Prime Minister added that the world will not allow Ukraine's freedom to be wiped out just like that. And I would agree with everything with him if he wouldn't attack his allies in everything he says when he was complaining about Putin. Great Britain has imposed further punitive measures. President Putin will never be able to wash the blood of Ukraine from his hands, said Prime Minister Johnson. A meeting with Moscow's ambassador ended abruptly. In response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the UK has grounded the Russian state airline Aeroflot. In addition, the accounts of other Russian businessmen from the banking and defense sectors would be frozen, said British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Russian President Vladimir Putin will never be able to wash the blood of Ukraine from his hands, he said, and I just want to repeat that one. The British government had previously summoned the Russian ambassador to London. In the conversation with Ambassador Andrei Kalin, Foreign Minister Liz Truss sharply criticized the unprovoked and unjustified Russian invasion of Ukraine, which made Russia a pariah internationally, according to information from ministry circles. Truss accused Moscow of repeatedly lying in that Russia repeatedly denied any invasion plans. And about that meeting I will talk about a little bit later again. Under pressure from parliamentarians, British Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries has ordered the media regulator to review Russia Today, or the RT, broadcast content. Earlier, Labour Party leader Keir Starmer had criticized the Kremlin-funded Russian channel's English language channel as President Putin's personal propaganda tool. In connection with his criticism of the Johnson administration's scant sanctions against Russia, Starmer called for a ban on RT. Prime Minister Boris Johnson replied that in a democracy that believes in the right to free speech, it should be for media regulator Ofcom, not politicians, to decide. Nadine Dorries wrote to Ofcom's chief executive that RT has been shown to be involved in the Kremlin's global disinformation campaign. The minister called for early and transparent measures to limit Russia's ability to spread propaganda. The regulator said it was keeping a close eye on reporting on Ukraine. RT wasn't mentioned though. Some MPs have expressed concerns about the Russian media channel being banned over fears of Russian retaliation. The BBC already deals extensively with Putin's propaganda for millions of people. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon expressed her dismay that her predecessor Alex Salmond is staying on at RT. Salmond has hosted his own talk show on the network since 2017. 3 years ago, Ofcom fined RT with £200,000 for repeated breaches of objectivity rules in connection with the Russian poisoning attack in Salisbury and the war in Syria. And now we come back to Liz Truss for a second. Amid the escalation in Ukraine, British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has reportedly run out of patience. She prematurely threw out the Russian ambassador Andrei Kelin, whom she had summoned on Thursday. After a heated exchange, she kicked him out. That's what Sky News reported, citing a source from the Foreign Ministry. She said he should be ashamed that Russia has repeatedly lied and lost the last spark of trust in the international community, the unspecified sources quoted as saying. The British news agency PA also reported that it was a very grumpy meeting, but Truss talking about lying to international partners is a special one here. The British government has called on airlines to avoid the country's airspace after the Russian attack on Ukraine. Following the horrific events of the night, I've instructed the Aviation Authority to ensure airlines avoid Ukrainian airspace to ensure the safety of passengers and crews, UK Transport Secretary Grant Shapps wrote on Twitter. Britain's ambassador in Kiev called on her compatriots to leave the country immediately if they believe it is safe to do so from where they are, Melinda Simmons wrote on Twitter. She called the Russian attack on the country completely unfounded and added, "Just because you've prepared and thought about this possibility for weeks and months doesn't mean it won't be shocking when it actually happens." The major British bank Lloyds is preparing for possible Russian cyber attacks in retaliation for sanctions in the financial sector. That's what Lloyds boss Charlie Nunn said on Thursday when presenting the bank's annual figures. The banking sector has been in talks with the government about possible attacks by Russian hackers, Nunn said. His bank has invested heavily in cybersecurity over the past 5 years. In view of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, significant British sanctions are also expected in the financial sector against Moscow. Prime Minister Boris Johnson wanted to comment on this in Parliament in London on Thursday, and he did, and the sanctions were strengthened. Britain announced a package of concessions to help Ukrainians in the UK, relaxing rules to help them temporarily extend or switch their visas. I have immediately ordered changes to our visa policy to provide certainty to our Ukrainian friends and colleagues living, working and studying in the UK, Interior Minister Priti Patel said. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.